what do you call, the cloud with your real life examples, right? See, nowadays when you want to commute from one particular place to another place, nowadays you don't have to own a car, but you can go and rent a car, and then you can use it until the time you want, and you can pay for it. Similarly, cloud computing, it's about renting instead of buying. Okay, you don't have to get anything on your own. So it is renting instead of buying model. So you go and rent what you want and then use it, and based on your consumption usage, you will have to pay for the consumption until the period you have rented it. Either it is a car, or for example, if you are watching movies online, you have to pay until what you have watched or what you have consumed, and you are going to pay for it. So with cloud, there are a lot of surrounding benefits like elasticity, scalability, flexibility, high availability, and so on. So those areas we will get to discuss in a while. But before that, I will give you one more quick example. So what was the situation before the cloud and now, right? Before the cloud, see, if you are a startup, if you are trying to create a business application, and if you want that business application to be consumed by end users, so what you can do is you generally go and purchase a hardware before the cloud, right? You go and purchase a hardware, you purchase the licensing for your OS and application or whatever you want to use, and then you have to size the system based on the peak load. For example, suddenly if you think of a new company like Flipkart or Amazon is going to have some kind of high-end sales, what will happen? There will be sudden surge, sudden increase in the number of consumers or users at that particular time. So if you're a company, startup company, if you're going to use the same kind of idea like the online sales and stuff, so your users might increase during 1 week time, or during that particular peak usage, right? And what will happen after the peak usage? The users will the number of connections, number of users will reduce, and automatically the usage of your application and the system will come down. So before the cloud, when you want to buy the hardware or when you want to buy the operating system, you have to meet the highest demand or whatever, like you have to purchase. For example, at the peak usage time, if in case the system needs 32 GB of RAM or 64 GB of RAM, you have to invest in that particular amount of CPU, memory, and storage, and then you have to have a lot of unused resources during the less usage, or when there is less number of users. Okay, so you have to build your system to meet the highest demand or the peak load. That is how you have to, there will be a lot of resource wastage. That is what I'm trying to convey here. Before the cloud, the big challenge is you have to provision your hardware and the application or whatever operating system to meet the peak load usage. And after that, during most of the times or most of the remaining time in the month or year, you will have very less consumption and your resources will not be consumed to the most extent, right? So the challenge is you have to buy the infrastructure for the peak load. But now in cloud, you can buy whatever size you want, and then there is a lot of flexibility. You can change resources whenever there is less consumption, and you can scale. Or when I say scalability, you can add more servers, or you can increase CPU, memory, storage whenever you want it, and you can go and release some unwanted disk, or release some unwanted network adapters, or release some unwanted virtual machine. So that flexibility and elasticity you have. And also, if you want more availability, you can go and configure multiple servers in the cloud, and you can increase the performance, increase the high availability, and enable fault tolerance for your application. So those kind of benefits are solved when you go to the cloud. So before the cloud, these are the kind of challenges we had. We have to procure the system considering the peak load, considering the highest consumption point. And so that's the challenge, right? If you are a big company with a lot of multiple application, then you might have affordability. But if you are a startup, or if you're a mid-sized company, and even if you're a large company, when your applications are growing like anything, you might not have enough capacity. Even the same challenge will come for any size of organization. So now in public cloud, there are three different model on how you can go and consume the services. So this model, it's like it's based on who services what or who manages what. Okay, so when I say cloud service model, so as a customer, okay, you can also go and get something which is readily available in the market from the cloud. You have three different categories. Okay, so software as a service. This is like a ready-made application or readily available application. See, especially for your finance, HR related stuff, you have a readily available application that you use in business, right? Concur is mainly for travel and expenses, and Workday is for your employee or HR related activities. And similarly, you have Salesforce, SharePoint, a lot of different, even whatever you are using for your personal, right? Google Mail, Google Drive, Google Docs. These are all Google suite of products, right? Similarly, Microsoft gives you Office 365 or M365, where it has got Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, SharePoint, Teams, Skype, everything as a bundle. So these are all readily available applications which you can consume as an end user. So here we are just a mere end user. So end users can go and use the software as a service or use the software which is readily available. Okay, so we don't have to really worry about the storage capacity. If the disk is failing or if there is additional capacity that is needed, you don't have to go and expand your physical storage or do anything on the OS level. So all those maintenance at the compute level, storage level, network level is taken care by the provider. Okay, and not just that, even you don't have to really install any application. See, think about on premises. If you want to have some SMTP service or email service, what you have to do, you have to go and install Exchange server, or you have to deploy some email system in order to send or receive emails, or if you want to collaborate with different people, you have to install Skype or install some specific tools and use it. But here you really don't have to worry about what kind of physical infrastructure, what is the OS underlying for that particular application, and what is the messaging system that they are using. You don't have to really worry. But only thing, whether you are getting the adequate space to store it, and whether you are able to have control on the access pattern, or who is having access, or whom you can share the information with. So control of the information or the identity and access management will always be with the customer. Only thing, you really don't have to worry about what kind of physical hardware they are using, what kind of OS they are using, what kind of technology they are using. So you don't have to worry about that. Only thing, you are getting everything as a service here. It is a completed product. You just go and use it as a end customer. So ready-made application means it is a completed product. You get a product which is already fully ready for usage. Mainly we use it for email, messaging, business productivity, finance, expense tracking. So Concur is for expense tracking, right? And Workday is for your HR and other business related stuff. Salesforce is again a business productivity application. So we have many such examples. And the next category what we have is platform as a service. So here, as a customer, what you can do is, let me just. So here you are getting the system which is readily available as a development environment. See what they are going to do here in an IT environment. Generally, you have these layers, right? You have got your physical layer, which comprises of storage, network, and then you have your compute, the server, right? Actual physical server. And on top of that, you have the hypervisor. And on top of that hypervisor, you go and deploy a virtual machine. And on the virtual machine, you go and install the development environment, like whether it is a .NET or a Python or a Java environment. So whatever runtime environment, you go and install it. And also you will have the other surrounding middleware, like your web application. You have IIS, Apache, or you have MQ for message queuing. So you will install the runtime environment plus your middleware components. On top of that, you go and put your data, and your application will be using those data and underlying technologies. So if I want to label this, I was talking about your underlying network, your storage, compute, security. So all those physical level devices. Okay, you have, when I say network, it is both routers, switches, firewall, all the devices. And here you have the virtualization layer. So it depends on technology vendor to technology vendor. I'll explain what kind of technology we are using in Amazon. Okay, so here the next one is your VM, your virtual machine. And within that virtual machine, you will have a specific OS, Windows or Linux. And top of that, you go and install your runtime environment, or you have the middleware like your IAS or Apache or MQ. These are all examples of middleware components, your database and all those things. And then you go and store your data. You also have your runtime here. Okay, when I say runtime, your .NET framework or Java runtime environment. So whatever is needed to run your applications and your data. So application generally will generate data. So that is also being used here. So these are the different layers in a particular IT infrastructure or an IT environment. And what in platform as a service, so you are going to get the entire platform where you can run your developed application. So as a provider, they are going to provide you the platform that you need to run your application. So to run your Java application, you need a Java runtime environment. To run your .NET application, you need a .NET framework. So all these stuffs, including the operating system that you need. For example, if you need a Linux OS or a Windows OS, it will be pre-installed, pre-deployed along with the prerequisite, and you will get a readily consumable development environment. So in platform as a service, you get the development environment where you can go and put your application which you are developing, and you can run it. So in this case, you are not a mere user, you are also a developer. So you are a programmer. You have to go and program and start creating the application based on the business requirement. So you have control on what is the application that you are creating. So you can go and add features and functionalities based on your business application. So you can focus here on application. But what is the thing that you need not worry about? You need not worry about the underlying physical infrastructure. It comes as a service, and even your virtual machine, operating system patching, operating system monitoring, operating system backup, the all other routine activities, you don't have to worry about. It is all managed and maintained by cloud provider. So this particular complete stuff, it will be managed and maintained by cloud provider. So who is the cloud provider here? Amazon is your cloud provider. So they are managing the environment. So infrastructure is also serviced by, when I say serviced, if there is a storage disk failure, if there is a server memory failure, if there is a network port failure, all these are serviced and managed by whom? The provider, the cloud provider. Whoever is maintaining the data center, Amazon or Microsoft or Google, is going to service the infrastructure. So that is why we call it as infrastructure service model. And in platform as a service model, not only the infrastructure, even the platform that you need to develop your application, to build your application, to develop deploy your application, all those operating system and the middleware prerequisite, everything will be coming as a ready-made development framework. So your entire development environment or the framework will be given as a service. So what, as a customer, you can just go and deploy your application or create your application, test your application. So mainly as a customer here, what we will do, we will build, test, deploy the apps that you are creating, the software that you are creating or the application you are creating. So here we need developers and programmers because we are not managing and maintaining the OS. So the OS, the underlying infrastructure is being managed by cloud provider. So not only this, on top of this, if there is a SLA requirement for your application, so if your application is needing 99.95 or 99, so based on the SLA requirement, you can go and request for that particular availability. Automatically, the cloud provider will ensure that it has got multiple redundancy, high availability features as a service. So they will create multiple servers to ensure that your application is not going down based on the customer SLA requirement. So you, based on the higher SLA, you have to pay more, and if you pay more, you will get a lot of scalability, high availability, and flexibility features and it is all given by provider. So the other model that you have is infrastructure as a service. So this is like almost you get this is the complete platform, right? So this full layer, it's like the platform, right? You get the platform. Or let me do one thing. So let me just color it like this. So this is what we call it as platform layer, right? Your infrastructure plus the development framework that is needed to run your or create your application. So this is what we call it as platform. And here infrastructure, it refers only to this area. This is your infrastructure layer. So here the infra will be managed by provider, network, storage, server, virtualization layer. If there is any issues on these layer, Amazon as a company, they will have to do the network port fixage or replacing the network device, upgrading the network iOS, or upgrading the storage firmware, replacing the failed memory, or fixing the issues on the hardware level, or any issues on the virtualization layer. The provider, Amazon here, will take care of the infrastructure. So they are servicing they are managing these layers, the infrastructure layers. So that is why it is called infrastructure as a service. So these models are differentiated by understanding who manages what, who is servicing what. If Microsoft or Amazon is servicing the infrastructure layer, then it is called infrastructure as a service. You are getting all these components as a service. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about virtualization issues, server issues, storage issue, network issue. All these are provider managed stuff. Whereas in platform, both the infrastructure and the platform needed for developing your application, you don't have to worry about it. So infrastructure is also provided as a service. Your development framework is also provided as a ready-made service. So you just have to go and develop the application. So infrastructure as a service, as a customer, you have more control. So when I say more control, you have control on the OS, you have the control on the development framework, you have the control on what kind of apps you want to install, what kind of configuration changes you want to make at the OS level, registry level, or whatever you want to do at the OS level. You have more control. You have control on OS, middleware, you have control on runtime. You can have older version of runtime like .NET 3 or .NET 4. But then here in platform as a service, you generally get what? You get the latest version of the technology product here, whereas you can go and select for n-1 or n-2 or maximum n-3. Or like what I'm talking about is you will get only access to the latest technology or the latest version of the product. Maybe if you are talking about Python, you will get access to the latest version of the Python or a couple of versions lower than that. Maybe if you assume that the product version is 6, you will get to access to version 6 and maybe like to version 5 and 4. Only that much. Here, you will get only one version of the product. So you will get the latest version of the product that is available as a service. Whereas here, you can go and install even Windows 2012 or Windows 2016, or you can also install Linux 5.5, or even you can install any kind of middleware or whatever runtime, Java runtime, which is a very legacy version. You have control on the OS level, so you can deploy any operating system that you want, any middleware version you want, any database version you want, any kind of deployment environment you want. You have more control here. Here, what you are doing, you get a kind of more control on the VM level or the OS level. So this is mainly used when you are doing a rehosting. When I say rehosting, you are just lifting and shifting your on-premises application to cloud. So here you are not making any changes. So you are going to continue to run the same OS, same middleware, same application. So if you have a on-premises application, on-premises server, where you are having very less time to vacate the data center, or if you want to exit the data center, so you have to quickly migrate the systems to cloud, right? So what you can do is you can easily lift and shift. Instead of having this on-premises server hardware, the host, you are migrating your entire VM to public cloud. So that is the general use case for infrastructure as a service. In infrastructure as a service, mainly you will do the entire VM migration to AWS platform or Azure platform or Google Cloud platform, and you will continue to run the same OS version, and you have the control on OS, middleware, runtime, data, and application. So all the layers as a customer, you have control here. See, when you have control here, what you have to take care of, you need to take care of virtual machine patching, monitoring, alerting, integration, version upgrade of IaaS or version upgrade of runtime. You have to take backup of your application's data. You have to take care of identity and access management. So you need to take care of multiple stuffs here. So if you are doing patching, monitoring, backup, and all those things, what your role is, you are having a role of cloud operations engineer or a system administrator role is what you have to take care of. So you have to be a system admin. Also, you have to be a developer, because you are you have access to install whatever development environment framework that you need, and you create the business application. So you will have to have cloud ops, sysops, and also the developers. So here on the platform as a service, we don't have to really worry about the system administration, cloud operations. It is as a service here. So when you have more control, definitely you have to pay more, because you have to take care of a lot of different steps. Availability, if you need more availability, you have to create more virtual machines or more instances, and you have to create clustering and all those things. But you have more control. That is the only advantage I see from infrastructure as a service. So as a user, you are responsible for managing the operating system, managing the middleware, managing the data, managing the applications. Whereas in platform as a service, you only manage two components, only application and data you have to take care of. So customers have to take care of OS, middleware, application, data, runtime, all these stuff. Whereas here, customer has to take care of only data and apps. Here, only identity and access management, or what you call. Okay, so that brings a important topic for discussion. See, in cloud, you need to understand a specific thing. As a customer, what exactly you are responsible for, irrespective of all these model, and what as a provider they are responsible for. See, this shared responsibility model is something you have to be very clear about. Okay, let me just, I'll try to bring in a slide, and then it will simplify the explanation. Let me see if I have that. Just a second. No. So, yeah, this is what I was explaining about the cloud service model. Let me quickly reshare my screen. I'll just bring a screenshot. Okay, let me quickly share my screen again. So I'm also running a parallel session on Azure in Tamil actually. So that is where I'm just picking the screenshot from. Okay. So this is what we need to understand in the shared responsibility model. So we have four different service model. One, you can have your own data center where you have complete control on the physical layer. You have complete responsibility on all the different stuff. But when it comes to infrastructure as a service, as a customer, you are having control everything above the operating system, everything above the virtualization layer. You can handle everything from the physical infrastructure is managed by the cloud provider. Okay, so this is like, instead of Microsoft, you have to assume this is Amazon is going to manage all these things, and as a customer, you need to manage all these stuff. So in platform as a service, you have shared responsibility on some of the area. See, under the application, you are deciding which version of application you want, which version of software environment you want, and who can access the application, from which network they can access, which IP range can access, or which are the users who can be given permission, what kind of permission. Based on their roles and responsibilities, you are the person who need to give them access to do modification or only to read the application. So identity and directory infrastructure is a shared responsibility in platform as a service, application, network, and even the operating system, not operating system, the network control from where you can access and who can access from which network device, mobile application or desktop application, from where they can access, you can control here. So platform as a service, you have shared responsibility on these areas. So both customer and Amazon are equally responsible for these layers in platform as a service. So in software as a service, irrespective of any model, if you look at here, this is always a customer responsibility. So if you are having some information, if you are having some data about your application, see, cloud provider can never be responsible of customer data directly, because see, they won't have access to the information. If they have access to the information, then your business is visible to them, right? So definitely information about your application or information getting as an outcome of your application, definitely the cloud provider will never have access. So information and data, it is always the customer's responsibility. You need to take backup, you need to configure backup based on the criticality of the information, daily or weekly or whatever backup you need to take care of. And you need to do the encryption, you have to enable encryption, you have to take care of safeguarding the data, so all those stuff. So if you want to have more copy, you can clone it, you can take a snapshot, you can always you will be always responsible for the information and the data that is getting stored in the cloud. And the next one, you are responsible for the devices. So what kind of mobiles can connect to your application, what version of Android, what version of iOS, what kind of desktops or laptops can connect. So you can control what are the different devices that can connect, cell phones, computers, and different gadgets that you have. So you can control which devices can connect based on their security measures. And the next one, you are always responsible for account and identities. You are the one who need to create the user account groups, you need to create them as a service account or whatever you are creating as an identity. As a customer, you are the one who is going to manage the people, services, and the devices. So this is always customer responsibility. So the user, right, that is what we call user groups, devices. So generally it is all about people, services, and devices. Sometimes you might also have to create a service account where one application need access to some amount of data or some content, right? Irrespective of all the four model, as a customer, we are always responsible for these things, because as a provider, they cannot take control or they cannot have visibility on the information and data that belongs to a customer. So they never take care of that. But if you ask them to take backup on a daily basis, they will enable backup, they will give backup as a service, they will provide encryption as a service, they will provide snapshot as a service, but they will not have access to read the information within that backup. So they will never have a control on the data or information of any customer. So irrespective of any model in the cloud, in the public cloud, these physical infrastructure is always taken care by the cloud provider, Amazon. Irrespective of any model, infrastructure as a service or platform as a service or software as a service, these three layers, server, network, the physical data center, surveillance in the physical data center, server host here refers to the server hardware, the hosting infrastructure. Even the storage is also hosting your data. So hosting is generally your data or your server. And yeah, so the remaining, as I told you, based on the service model, you will have different level of control. So this is what you need to understand as a shared responsibility model. So generally we have the traditional IT data center, where you have complete access on your corporate data center. You can run even a legacy hardware, legacy storage, you can continue to do that. But in the cloud, you get all latest technology in terms of hosting, server, network, storage, data center, and also you get later latest version of middleware or components here. So shared responsibility model, you can also expect couple of questions in the exam, so you need to be clear about it. So any questions on cloud service model and shared responsibility model? See, examples, if you are asking me some examples of infrastructure as a service, so you go and create EC2 instance, right? Or you go and create a virtual private cloud VPC. And those are all examples where you get complete control on your OS, complete control on what kind of platform you need to install, development environment you want to install. You get more flexibility and more control if you go with virtual machine. Here, we are talking about Elastic Beanstalk or app services, okay, where you have control on only the application layer, Google Apps Engine, and so on. So here we call it as Azure VM or Google VM or whatever you can Google instance. And the software as a service, we already had a lot of examples listed. So you can continue to list a lot of stuffs. So you get virtual desktop as a service. You get a lot of different stuffs.
Stan,
Yeah.
Stan, in infrastructure as a service,
Mhm.
so up to the virtual machine level, they will take care of control. It means like creation of virtual machine and managing and maintaining that comes to our scope of support, right?
Yeah, deploying the OS for the virtual machine, it is under the customer responsibility. You go and deploy whatever OS you need, Windows or Linux or what version, what edition. You have control on what version of operating system that you need for your application to perform properly. So you have control from the OS layer on of the virtual
OS
machine.
layer.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but the EC2 instances also handled by them. From OS level only we have access, correct? I mean,
Okay. See,
our responsibility.
right, right. So that is a very good point. See here, as I told you in the diagram, the virtualization layer, it depends on, see, virtualization is nothing but your hypervisor, right? So Microsoft as
Correct.
a company, they had their own proprietary hypervisor called Hyper-V even before they came into cloud. So they used that. But Amazon, when they came to cloud in cloud business in 2005, they did not have any hypervisor with them for having the virtualization functionality. So they went for using the customized Zen version. Then they started using kernel virtual machine from Linux, and then they also started supporting VMware ESXi or vSphere product or the ESX product. And then they also started having their own Amazon Nitro hypervisor, which is their proprietary hypervisor, which was released 5 to 6 years back. So this EC2 layer is actually the hypervisor layer. So Elastic Compute Cloud is nothing but your virtualization layer. So the EC2 virtualization layer, yeah, as you said, it is maintained by the provider, whereas the instance that you create on top of your EC2, nothing but your VM virtual machine, is managed by the customer. The instance is managed by the customer. So EC2 refers to the virtualization capability or virtualization layer. Okay, on top of that, as a customer, we go and deploy our own instances with the required operating system version that we need.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
So it means like underlying infrastructure they will provide it, and the rest is our scope of
Yeah,
support.
in simple, true.
So the
So infrastructure as a service, you get the complete infrastructure, including the virtualization facility or feature, right? You go and with the ability to go and create VM, that option they are giving you. Okay, including,
okay.
see, there's
So that's
yeah, who manages what, who services what, that is what the service model is all about. If the provider is servicing server issues, storage issues, network
mhm.
issues, then it is infrastructure as a service. If you are servicing the runtime data and all those things, so see, I mean, I don't want to confuse you more. So it is based on who
Okay.
manages what or who services what. If
Okay.
infrastructure is serviced by provider, then it is infrastructure as a service. If infrastructure and the platform is serviced by managed by the provider, then it is called platform as a service. If everything is coming as a ready-made product, then it is called software as a service. You